Welcome to Wisdom from the Word. Bible Fellowship Church is a family of believers who want to help others discover and strengthen their relationship with Jesus Christ. And we're praying this message helps you strengthen your walk with Him. Now let's dive in.
My name is Mike Swaine. I'm an elder at Bible Fellowship Church, and I'm here today to talk to you about wisdom and word. My topic today is going to be waiting or patience, but waiting well, because it's important that we learn to wait well. We don't do that naturally. Most of us don't like to wait at all. We certainly don't like to wait at red lights. We don't like to wait for the waiters to come to our table when we're having dinner out or something, and we don't want to wait. We don't like waiting any long time for food to come to the table. We don't even like to wait for the FedEx or UPS truck to come and deliver us something we ordered a week or two before, and we definitely don't like to wait on a doctor's report. And one that's of more concern is too often we don't like to wait for God to answer our prayers. He's going to answer them. They're going to be either yes, no, or maybe, or later. But He's not necessarily going to answer them right then. I guess that our motto of this particular age is we want what we want when we want it. And we really don't need to do that. But to get a good idea of how you can wait well, you can go back to the Old Testament, and there are a lot of different instances there where people had to wait for what they were promised. And my favorite, I think, is King David. King David was born in the house of Jesse in Bethlehem. Samuel, who was God's prophet, was basically sent to Saul and told Saul that he wasn't following God's orders, and then finally told him that he had been rejected as the king of Israel. And later he told Samuel to go to Bethlehem and go to Jesse's house, and there he would disclose to him who was going to be the next king of Israel. And so if you read about it, you'll find out that Samuel gets there, and he's told Jesse in advance he wants to have his sons there, and he had a bunch of them. Then he went down through the sons when he was there, and God kept saying nope, 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 nope. And all of a sudden he'd run out of boys. And he said, "Don't you have any other sons?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I've got my son David, who's the youngest, and he's out in the pastures taking care of the sheep." And so he said, "Go get him," and he did, and he turned out to be the one that God was going to pick, and he got anointed. God had Samuel anoint David as the future king. But God didn't immediately put David up as king. David at that time was about 15 years old, and probably wasn't a good candidate to sit on the throne right at that time. So God let him continue there at his father's house. He continued watching the sheep. If you'll remember, it tells us in there that he killed a bear or two, and he killed a lion or two protecting the sheep. And then when the Philistines were beating up on Saul's army, and the Philistines had suggested they have their champion, the giant Goliath, go against Israel's champion that they would pick, and whoever won, the losers would back away and stop the fighting that was going on at that time. And of course, nobody in Israel wanted to do that. They had all seen this giant, and he was huge, and they had decided that didn't work. But David had come to town to see what was going on with all the stuff, and he said, "Look, I'll do it." Saul put armor on him, or tried to, and he said no, and he ends up fighting Goliath and winning. So he's now starting to age a little bit. He kept on getting exposed to things. He became best friends with Jonathan, who was Saul's oldest son, who would probably become king if Saul hadn't acted the way he did. and he got friends with him. He was a good singer and stuff, so Saul invited him into the palace, so he got to see the inner workings of being a king, and he learned from Saul, even though what he was learning basically is how not to do it, because Saul, unfortunately, just would not do what God told him to do. So Saul had been told, Samuel told Saul that his house wasn't going to continue, and that David was the anointed one, and so he decided he'd kill him. And so he told Jonathan to kill him. Jonathan didn't do it, would not do that, and so he kept chasing him around and trying to kill him. David had a number of opportunities to kill Saul, and he declined to do that. He said, "You don't kill the person appointed as anointed as king of Israel." Finally, Saul ended up killing himself. There was a battle with the Philistines. This has been going on for years. A battle with the Philistines, and he was badly wounded, and he asked his bodyguard that was left to kill him, and they would not do it, so he ended up killing himself. When the word came out and about Saul's death, it'd be interesting. David might have at that point, because this had been going on, I don't know, maybe 10 years at that point, and you thought David might just jump in and try to seize power, but he didn't do that. David didn't just assume that since Saul was dead that he was now the king. And in 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 1, it says, David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go up to the towns of Judah?" And the Lord said, "Go up." And still David asked, "Where in Judah?" Now, he's not going to just assume that he knows where to go and exactly who to talk to. And so the Lord said, "To Hebron in the tribe of Judah." So David did that. He went up there and he was anointed king over the tribe of Judah. Now remember, this is just one of the tribes of Israel, but that was a start. And so those people were in favor of David being king. Then there was a prolonged war between David and Saul's family, because all of Saul's family thought they should stay in it. And David finally became king over all of Israel when he was about 30 years old. Now, that's waiting pretty well. If you're waiting 15 years, you find out when you're 15 that you're going to become king of Israel by God's prophet Samuel. And then 15 years later, you finally become that. That is pretty good waiting. David later wrote the Psalms, and two of them apply to this. One was Psalm 27:14, where he said, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." And then in Psalm 41, David said, "I waited for the Lord, he turned to me and heard my cry." Now, you note that in the New Testament, patience is one of the fruits of the Spirit in Romans 12:12, and sometimes we think we're going to get there and we start getting some patience and it kind of goes away and we have to work on that again. But if you remember that it took David 15 years to become king after having God's promise that he was going to be king, sometimes that patience really pays off. Now, Bible Fellowship has had a situation where we've had to have patience for the last 10 or 15 years because we really need a larger campus. We have 4.5 acres here on Hammock Road. We had been looking for additional land for a long time. Finally found some down on Lakewood and Dozier, about a little over 20 acres. And we were able to buy that, had the money to buy it. We bought some additional houses along Lakewood, so we had a better entranceway, and God provided that to us. And then we were able to hire a design group that designed churches and their layouts. and they came in and designed a campus that we could build there, taking into effect where the entrances were and everything. And so we decided elders decided we'd have to go and do it in phases because we didn't have the capital available to do all of it. We then hired a local engineering company who has done the plan for the site, and it is now under consideration by the county. The initial consideration was good, and when the engineers met and some of our staff met with the county a number of weeks or months ago now there's some talk about maybe needing an additional traffic study to go into a little more depth on the traffic, which will determine what kind of changes we'll have to make to those two roads by the impact we have on it. We're hopeful they'll stick with what we already have, which is good for us. Anyway, we're getting there. We have a contractor who has indicated that he can build it, at least the first phase, within our budget and within money maybe that we already have now. And so we're making progress, and we've been waiting probably 10 or 15 years to get this. And there were times that we got a little upset and concerned and kind of threw in the towel, and the Lord took care of it for us. He caused our attendance to drop off, and we had plenty of room for parking. And we got over that, and now we're back to the point where we don't. But we have the patience, and it's tough, but we're going to keep going in that direction, and God's going to provide. And thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us for Wisdom in the Word. If you're looking for additional resources to help strengthen your walk with Jesus Christ, visit bfcsebring.com or download our mobile app.